Welcome, everyone, to the Nhl Dfs show. I'm your host today, Michael Clifford. We're giving Jake Hari a much-deserved night off after what's been a pretty good week for him, I guess. Joining me today, as he has in a couple prior shows, I think this is our first Saturday voyage together. We have the host of my Heatley, the Datsuk to my Zetterberg, the Pronger to my Niedermeyer, Mr. Josh Harris. Josh, how are we doing today, bud?
Doing pretty good. Somehow cashed despite being heavy on the late games yesterday, so I'll take it and run with it. Jake's still winning stuff. Doing pretty good though. How you doing on this Saturday?
Not doing too bad. It's starting to warm up outside up here, which is kind of a change because usually we're freezing here while everybody else is warming up. So it's been nice to be able to get out and get a run in and stuff like that. Get some use out of my weekends, which haven't been super intensive over the last several months at this point. While everyone's here, while I have your attention, if you could just like and subscribe. We're trying to build this channel as much as we can and keep these shows coming almost on a daily basis now. Like us, gets us to the top of the algorithm. Subscribe, gets us more popular. Just do what you can to help us grow, and we'll do what we can to help you guys win some money. Last night, like we said, Jake Hari, the normal host of the show, had a pretty good night. Nearly won the $10, five-figure night for him. We had another user, Robbie, have another good night after shipping the 5K the night before. He's on a little heater of his own. I didn't do so well personally. I actually had a lot of Niederreiter, Natchez, and Trocheck. I just didn't have them with Florida 1, which was kind of what you needed last night. How'd you do? I know that you said you had Natchez, Niederreiter. Do you do anything special?
No, I had them with Edmonton 1 and Bo Horvat, so it just kind of went flat. I mean, I used Demko, who was under 10%, and he had a good game, but Brossois with the shutout just kind of – I mean, Connor McDavid had 2 shots on goal the whole game. It was a hard checking game, so they're back tonight. I'm sure people will still go back to them, but – kind of disappointing after that Natchez Niederreiter start. And, how dare Jacob Slavin get the empty net goal? You got to give Nino the empty net hat there. Like, come on.
Yeah, and the thing with Slavin, too, is he's had a fairly bad season, to this point. I think it was his first goal in the year. He hasn't had a lot of points. So, maybe this is start of the turnaround for Slavin. Carolina's on the slate tonight again. They had to reschedule a game. We'll get to them later. Speaking of those games, we should probably jump right into it because we've got an 8-game slate here tonight, and there's a lot to talk about because there may be some lineup changes. There's a couple really what I think are going to be undervalued spots. So let's jump right into it. We'll get to our first game here. New York Islanders 2.6 implied goal total are going into Pittsburgh with a 2.9 implied goal total. These two teams met a couple nights ago. One of our users stacked Pittsburgh too, and that came through for him in a big way. So we suspect that Kasperi Kapanen will still be on the top line for Pittsburgh with Brian Rust moving down to the second line to play with Evgeny Malkin and Jason Zucker. So we've seen these teams match up a few times before already this year. Like I said, just a couple days ago, Pittsburgh has been garnering a lot of ownership over the last few weeks. Looks like it's going to come down a bit today, but we still have them in the teens. What do you like out of this game? Pittsburgh, Islanders, just give us your thoughts.
Yeah, so normally not a Pittsburgh guy, but when I do play Pittsburgh, I tend to gravitate towards Malkin, who's been very bad this season, but with Rust there and Zucker, his numbers historically are better than they have been this season. I mean, this line as a whole has a 70-minute sample size, and it's pretty good. It's 70 minutes. You want to – I don't know how much you like to use before you can start integrating that into your stuff. But like for me, it's like 125 minutes, but in 75 minutes, they have a 61% Corsi for, 2.69 expected goals for, 13 high dangers scoring chances 4 per 60. So, and they're going to avoid the Barzal line. They're going to get the Brock Nelson line, which is very high event. So if I'm going to, do that, I'm going to, go Pittsburgh 2. I do like this Islander second line. I'm not going to fault you going to Pittsburgh 1 using Crosby with Kapanen and whoever it is.
Gensel?
Gensel, yeah. Pretzel Gensel, yeah. So, I mean, if you want to use Pit 1, I won't fault you for it. I'm going to be underweight on Isles 1. I don't like going up against Crosby. It's just the rule that I have. So for me, most exposure to this game would be Pit 2, then Islanders 2. I'll have a little bit of Islanders 3 if I need to get them in for relief from expensive stacks.
Yeah, I'm glad you kind of mentioned Islanders 3 there. That's one of the mini stacks that I've talked about quite a bit on this show. Going back a couple weeks, Jean-Gabriel Pageau, he started the season kind of fairly cold. Like, he was basically putting up one shot per game. He has 17 shots in his last 5 games, 5 goals in that span. Now, he's not going to keep scoring a goal per game, obviously, but the last 5 games, I think, are a bit more representative than his first 10 games, let's say. So I do like, like a little two-man like Pageau and Wahlstrom. They both play the same power play together. You can throw Nick Leddy on for additional power play exposure. I do like that. That's kind of all that I'm getting for myself out of this game personally. That Pit 1 ownership is really scaring me. Like, when it's an 8-game slate and we're talking about this non-super elite lines like non-Matthews, non-McDavids and stuff, like when we talk about those lines getting into the mid-teens, that's where I usually just start fading. So I'm probably going to stay away from Pit 1. I do have some one-off Malkin because you're right. Like, his numbers historically with Rust are considerably better. We're talking increase in scoring of like 15%, increase of expected goal share by quite a bit. So I do like Malkin's one-off price in case Brian Rust is, that key to rejuvenation. So I'm kind of with you. Pittsburgh 2, it's just I'm not going to full stack. So that's where I'm sitting right now. Probably Malkin one-off, some Islanders 3 in this game. Chris Letang, he's had a tough season so far this year. He's definitely not looked like the guy of prior seasons. I looked at his offensive and defensive impacts, and they're just starting to fall off. His shots per game, like, this is a guy that was typically, around 3 shots per game. He's down to 2 this year. What are you doing with Chris Letang? Like, do you think he's a must in your Pittsburgh stacks, or is he a guy that you think we can kind of just leave off and avoid that ownership?
I mean, I don't like the ownership on him. Really, though, with the Pittsburgh power play, if you want to leave him off, it's fine. It's not something I'm going to do. If I'm going to be stacking any type of power play, I'm going to put him in just like, I'd rather. So, like, say I'm doing 10 Pittsburgh power play stacks and 150 lineups. I probably have at least 6 of them with him, just because, like, on the off chance that he does have like one of his Chris Letang games from a few years ago, you don't want to be underweight on your Pittsburgh power plays. If he gets involved on, like, they score 3 power play goals and he's involved in all 3 of them, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So as much as I want to fade him while using Pittsburgh, I think I need to put him in there just to be sure. And I certainly wouldn't one-off him. He's not someone I look to one-off.
Yeah, I'm with you. Definitely not one-offing him. The Pittsburgh power play, I'm glad you brought that up. Since Kessel got traded the summer of 2019, since the trade, Pittsburgh's power play is 21st by goals for per 60 minutes in the league. That's actually worse than the Los Angeles Kings. And this year they're 27th. So it's gotten worse from last year. That's why I think that's another reason why I'm kind of shying away from the Penguins. Like, the Islanders don't take any penalties at all. They're 3rd fewest times shorthanded per game this year. And the Penguins have a terrible power play. Like, I think, like, for me, when I see a team with a terrible power play going up against a team that doesn't take a lot of penalties and we have a lot of ownership on them, like, for me, that just says to leave Crosby alone. So those are just kind of my thoughts. Any defenseman out of this game that you like particularly? I'm just correlating mostly. So, I'm putting in Leddy in my Islanders 3s and stuff like that. Is there anybody that stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, if you going Islanders 1, or you can use one of the Pulak or Dobson. I prefer Dobson just for the savings. I'm not really interested in the Islanders defenseman tonight. If you need a cheap one-off on the Pittsburgh side, I think Matheson's fine. The power play 2 time. He's creeping back up. He's up to 3,000 now. He was 2,600 the other night. I think until he gets into like the high 3s, you can still use him as a one-off. John Marino, if you absolutely need some savings, he's still on the power play. He's 2,600, but for me, I'd prefer Matheson. I'd like to see Pierre-Olivier Joseph's minutes to go up a little bit at his price, but he's okay, even though he doesn't see power play time.
Yeah, I'm with you on Matheson. Jake and I talked about him, I think, one of our last shows together, and he's a guy that can just create offense on his own. Transition the puck on his own. So I like defensemen like that. So yeah, I like Matheson there as a one-off. I do like Varlamov's price in net too. 7,300 against what should be a chalky Pittsburgh team. Give me some Varlamov. All right, let's move it on to our next game. This one is a little bit tougher to break down. We have the Nashville Predators with a 2.6 implied goal total going into Columbus with a 3 implied goal total. Again, a matchup that we saw a couple nights ago. Now, I say we could have some trouble here because we don't really know what the Nashville lines are going to be like. Ryan Johansson skated this morning for them in practice, but he's not expected to play tonight. They're saying he's not going to be back to next week. But the top line for Nashville was broken up in their last game. They moved Rocco Grimaldi into Forsberg's spot, and they put Forsberg with Haula and Arvidsson, and then they moved Forsberg around the lineup. Like the last 10 minutes of that Nashville game was a mess, and we haven't had lines since. We don't really know what the Nashville lines are going to be. We assume the Columbus lines are going to stick together. Their usual top line of Brozovic, Atkinson, and Laine. Now, Jenner, Foligno, and Tessier, they may be listed as the third line in some spots, but they played 18 to 19 minutes last game. So that Foligno line, Foligno, Jenner, Tessier is effectively their second line. So, Bjorkstrand, Grigorenko, Domi, those guys, they're going to be playing 13, 14 minutes. So there's a lot here because we don't really know what Nashville's lineup is going to be. They didn't really look that great on Thursday night. Columbus hasn't been that great defensively this year. David Savard and Zach Werenski are going to be out for Columbus. That's a big hit to what is the strength of this team, and that's their blue line. So what do you like here, Josh?
Yeah, so I was on with Jake on Thursday, when these teams played, and I was telling him, I was like, I want to like Nashville tonight, and I'm in the same boat. Like, I want to like Nashville. Columbus Blue Jackets surprisingly aren't very good defensively, bottom 5 team in actual goals against per 60, mid-pack and expected goals against per 60. I got that. Got to cite my source. I got that from your power play article on that Thursday. I want to like them. It's just an unknown because John Hines don't know what his lines are going to be. If Forsberg is with Arvidsson, I think I want to use that line, even if it is Haula. Like, he's 2,800. You can get away with it. Like, if you have room to go up to Duchesne and like go Forsberg, Duchesne, Arvidsson, as long as they're over 2 even strength lines, not 3 even strength lines, then it's just a mess. But like, if they're on 2 different lines, I think you can go that route for the power play correlation. Again, unless I know the lines, the only thing I can really recommend from this game is Yossi and Ellis. They're going to get their minutes. They're going to get the power play one time. And then on the Blue Jacket side, it's kind of like the same boat. Like, Torts is kind of a mess. He does the kind of, he'll mix up some stuff. He's been pretty consistent playing Laine, Roslovic, and Atkinson together. That line's a little bit overpriced for me. And the other thing, like, Torts has been pretty consistent about the past few years is really liking Boone Jenner. He always plays Boone Jenner consistently. And like you said, they've been getting 17-8 minutes a night. And that line is fully correlated on power play too. And they're cheap enough where they let you, stack the Tampa ones, the Torontos, the Edmontons. So if you need a cheap go-to line that's fully correlated on power play too, I don't mind the Jenner line. But unless I know the Nashville lines, it's kind of tough because I want to like them, but you just don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, if we knew it was Haula, Arvidsson, Forsberg, then I would probably have that in my lineup. But, I hope the Luke Cunningham experiment comes to an end because, anybody that watches this show knows that I've been railing against it. And if you look at the Wowie numbers, him and Forsberg are actually worse together than they are apart. And that's very rare where two players make each other worse but are better away from each other. Like it's just crazy. Like I said about the chemistry, it's just a bad chemistry line. So if we get like Duchesne, Granlund, Forsberg, then I would switch out lineups to stuff that in. If they do end up stacking a line, I will make some changes at warmups to make sure I get some of a Nashville top line. But if it's like Forsberg, Cunning, Grimaldi, I'm not stacking that line. So I think that's just kind of where I am on this game. I'm not stacking anybody out of Columbus. I have some one-off Bjorkstrand because he's still a good goal scorer and he'll have no ownership. I have some Gavrikov from Columbus. He's a good punt defenseman. He's like 3,000 or 3,100. He'll see 23, 24 minutes here tonight. I do like Merzlikins in net. For Columbus. I think he's the better goalie than Korpisalo. At least he's had better numbers for his career, or better underlying numbers. So I do like Merzlikins, but that's pretty much it from here. It's like if Nashville has a stacked top line, I'll make some late swaps to them at warm up. Other than that, like you said, one off Yossi, one off Ellis. I like Gavrikov because he's cheap and he's going to get some ice time. Merzlikins, one off Bjorkstrand. That's about it for me out of this game. Maybe Domi. I guess if you want to one off Domi because he's going to be on the top power play, but like I'm not expecting a lot of power plays out of this game. Columbus is taking the fewest power plays of any, or is allowing the fewest time shorthanded of any team this year, and it's 2 per game. In Nashville, they're in the top 10, but those two teams had 1 power play combined in their last game. So I'm not expecting a lot here. So yeah, like I said, stacked top line for Nashville if it's stacked at warmups. If not, I think you can probably just let it go. I do like that call on that general line. They are fully correlated and can't fit in with your Edmonton stack. And they won't have a lot of ownership. So I do like that there. Are you on either of these goalies here?
Yeah, I like Merzlikins if you're correlating. The one thing I will say about Nashville is it is Saturday night, and this is an early lock game. Nashville has a 2.6 implied total, so their ownership is going to be down as it is. There's UFC tonight with big GPPs. So if you're around and they load up that top line, they're going to be very low owned. I think that's a game like where you can take advantage and get some really good leverage if John Hines, actually gets has an epiphany and actually puts his good players together.
Yeah, come on, John Hines. We're all counting on you, man.
One time.
Come through for us. All right. If you want to stay up to date on the latest NHL DFS news, you can do so at our Twitter handle Awesemo NHL. It's where you'll find posts for our articles. You'll find posts for our videos. You'll find posts for late breaking news. Just make sure you can follow Awesemo NHL on Twitter. And we also have a giveaway going on our main Twitter handle, Awesemo_com. We're almost at 30,000 followers. I checked earlier today. We were at like 29.7, so we're getting there. We want 30,000 followers on Twitter, so just head on to Twitter, follow Awesemo_com, and we will be giving away 30 free weekly passes to our followers. So if you want a chance at a free weekly pass from Awesemo, head on to Twitter, follow us at Awesemo_com. And because we just can't stop giving away free stuff, and I'm glad that you brought up MMA, we have some free content going on today over at Awesemo.com. So we have MMA fighter rankings for the card tonight. We have our NHL player and top stack rankings, and we have our NBA player projections. So NBA, NHL, MMA, if you want a little bit of help tonight, we have some free content for you. So head on over to Awesemo.com. All right, let's keep this slate rolling. We got a game coming up that I think is very, very interesting, especially with the implied goal totals. We have San Jose with an implied goal total of 2.4, going into St. Louis with an implied goal total of 3.2. Now, I think those have moved a little bit through the day. Nope, they stay right where they are. So that's exactly where we're going to sit. This is an interesting game for me. St. Louis has a lot of injuries. Ivan Barbashev is out. Jaden Schwartz is out. Colton Parayko is out. Robert Thomas is out. Tyler Bozak is out. And, of course, Vladimir Tarasenko is still out. So that's like, 5 guys out of their top 9 plus their best defenseman? That's a lot of injuries for St. Louis, and San Jose doesn't look like they're going to be carrying much ownership. Jordan Kyrou looks like he's the guy that's going to be joining the St. Louis top line with David Perron. I was going to say David O'Reilly. David Perron and Ryan O'Reilly. So there are some lines to like here, despite there, being a 5.5 total in San Jose at a 2.4 implied goal total. So Josh, why don't you lead us through this game?
Yeah, so these teams played on Thursday as well, and I was on St. Louis too when Kyrou was there. He ended up having a 0.0, but that's because Barbashev got hurt. He was all over the place after Barbashev got hurt. Braden Shen got there late. Hoffman scored early. But yeah, so Kyrou moving up to the top line is a bit interesting for the Blues. O'Reilly and Perron have a massive sample together. Jake and I, seems like we always have the Blues when we're on together, but like we're kind of both on the same page. Like we don't like going against O'Reilly Perron just because they slow the pace down like dramatically. Like it's just slow. So it kind of takes me off the Couture, Kane, LeBanc line 5-on-5. Like if you want to power play stack the Sharks tonight, I think that's a route you can go. Just 5-on-5. It does give me a little bit of trepidation just because Blues are at home. They're going to hard match O'Reilly against Couture. And then on the second line, Shannon and Hoffman have been pretty good based on the eye test, the past few games. But moving Sanford to that second line, that's going to make it pretty weak defensively. And I'm a big Hurdle guy, and he's only 4,400. And granted, he has not had a very good season, but Hurdle and Meyer have ridiculous numbers together. They're almost as good as like back in the day when I was throwing in Hurdle, Kane, Donskoy, San Jose 3 because no one ever played him because they got like 12 minutes a night. But like, yeah, I think San Jose 2 is my favorite line of the night. The other thing I noticed in this game, we noticed when we were talking before the show, Devin Dubnyk is $6,600 tonight, right? So like, the Sharks are terrible defensively. They're still missing Carlson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, he's their best defensive defenseman, and he hasn't been great. But like 6,600 for any goalie, I think you have to consider him in GPPs, especially if you're using Sharks. It allows you to do a whole bunch of stuff. Like Binnington is $1,900 more expensive. He's $8,500 tonight. I don't want nothing to do with $8,500 Binnington. But for 6,600, even if he gives up 3 goals, say like he gives up 3 goals on 27 shots and wins the game, like he's going to exceed value at his price. So getting back to what I want to do, I think San Jose 2 is my favorite spot. I will have some St. Louis 1 just because of the power play correlation there, and Kyrou up there maybe makes them play a little bit more with haste. San Jose 1 I'll have with some power play stacks, and then I want some Burns. He's 6,600, so that's reasonable. He's not like 7,900 like he normally is, so that's about where I'm at in this game.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that matchup for San Jose 2 because that's one of the more tantalizing matchups on the slate for me, I think, because, without Parayko, San Jose 2 is going to get into that depth blue line for St. Louis. And they're also, Hoffman's not great defensively. Braden Shen's good, not great. Like, I think it's a matchup that can be had for San Jose. So I'm glad you said that. The San Jose power play stack is what interests me the most out of this game. And the reason for that is that you're right. It's a bad matchup for Couture and Kane going up against O'Reilly and Perron. St. Louis is taking the third most penalties of any team in the league this year. Not that, San Jose has like a Boston-esque power play. But if you give, Hurdle and Kane and Meyer, or Hurdle and Kane and Couture and Burns and those guys 4 or 5 opportunities, they may burn you, especially where St. Louis is missing a handful of their penalty killers because they have so many injuries. So I'm with you on St. Louis 1. I do think I think it's kind of a tough matchup for them because San Jose's top line has actually been really good this year. It's just their defensemen have been kind of a mess. So I'm with you on a bit of St. Louis 1. But for me, it's San Jose out of this game that I have a lot more interest in, particularly the power play, like I said, because St. Louis is taking so many penalties. And like we have them coming up with fairly decent ownership, like LeBanc at around 11%, Couture around 11%, Kane a little bit higher at 13. I think they come in a little bit lower than that, especially with the implied goal total at where it is at 2.4. So I think you're going to see these guys probably closer to single digits than you will the teens. But even if they're 9-10%, that's not a big problem for me. So yeah, that's where I am on this game. You're right, 6,600 Dubnyk. I'm not chasing him because I think it might be a low shot volume kind of night, but I am putting him in my San Jose stacks for correlation. And yeah, Burns fine, 6,600. Mario Ferraro played 27 minutes last game, and he's still in the $4,000 range. So Ferraro's fine for me. Same things. Like I said, St. Louis side top line. You can power play stack because San Jose takes a fair amount of penalties as well. So I kind of like the power play guys out of this game on both sides. And our boy Vinny Dunn, 20 minutes in a row for 5 straight games. Are we playing Vince Dunn tonight?
Yeah, but now that we said he's been on the ice 20 minutes, 5 straight games, he's getting 12 minutes tonight.
Like with Parayko out, like I would just absolutely blow a gasket if that happened. I'd probably stop watching hockey altogether. Yeah, so I'm with you on Binnington as well. $8,500 Binnington, no appeal to me. Like I said, Dubnyk in some correlated stacks. That's about it for me out of this game. What about you?
Yeah, I'm on the same page.
Okay. All right. Next one. This one I think is going to have a lot of appeal for us. One of our favorite players is playing. We have the Los Angeles Kings with a 2.3 implied goal total going into Arizona. They're carrying a 3.1 implied goal total. Both implied goal totals have actually come down a bit through the day, so maybe there won't be as much ownership here that we might think. Josh, I'm just going to let you explain why we like a specific line here tonight, or maybe even 2 different lines.
Yeah, there's one on each team that I like. I'll start with Arizona 1. I used them on Thursday, expecting Schmaltz, Garland, Keller to go against the LA King depth of, the Velarde line or the Lizotte line, which is, I mean, they're up there with like some of the worst defensive lines in the NHL this year. And Tippett decided, you know what? We're at home, so let's put Schmaltz against Kopitar. Like, why? Why? Like, just killing me. And then the Kings, took a 2-0 lead, and then, the coach is like, maybe this is a bad idea. So they put, the Schmaltz line against the depth, and they scored. So I'm hoping they're going to stay that route and go against depth. The Arizona top line, they're around the same price they were Thursday, so they're still kind of in no man's land. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of ownership on them. And if that stays the case, I may go back to them. And then if Schmaltz stays away from Kopitar, that means probably the Dvorak line is going to go up against the Kopitar line, which is just like they're not great defensively at all either. They have a 2.88 expected goals against in a 50-minute sample size. Maybe they can get better, but it's Lawson Krause and Tyler Pitlick, so I'm not holding my breath. So if that's the case, I do like going back to the LA one here tonight. It feels bad clicking an Iafallo and Dustin Brown, but like I think they're fully correlated power play 1. They've been playing really well together, so I think you can go back there as well. And then if you want to put in Kempe too, like I'm a Kempe guy. Like I wish Kempe was up there instead of Iafallo or Brown, but beggars can't be choosers with the Kings. So I don't mind putting him in there for like a 4-man instead of Doughty and get a little creative elsewhere just for the little bit of savings. So I'm a Chikrin guy as well. So if you're using that Arizona top line, I think you can correlate with Chikrin. He had a 0.00 point effort last game, and now he's more expensive. So I would imagine his ownership goes down. And then if you want to add in, Dvorak, you can, but the Kings penalty kill is pretty decent. So I'd probably just go Arizona 1, LA 1. I do like the second line a little bit. They're going to see depth of the Yotes too. So if you want to filler a line there, I think you can go there.
Is Oliver Ekman-Larsson perhaps the most overpriced player you've ever seen? I was looking at he's 6,100 today.
That's awful. There's no reason to play him.
And he's averaging under 2 shots per game and under 1 block per game. Like he's honestly producing like a $3,500 defenseman or a $4K defenseman. I would say Oliver Ekman-Larsson is definitely a guy you can leave out of your lineups. Like the matchups that the coaches dictate is why we like Arizona so much here. Like if we knew Arizona was going to go up against the Kopitar line, we probably wouldn't play the King, or we probably wouldn't play the Yotes. But it's the fact that they're going up against the Kings' depth. And just to crystallize just how bad the Kings' depth is, they're averaging 2.7 expected goals against when the Kopitar line's off the ice and 1.8 with them on the ice, which means they're actually 50% worse defensively when that line's off the ice as a team. It's just the chasm is just massive. So, and you're right about them being in no man's land because, like, you can't fit him with Matthews, you can't fit him with McDavid, you can't fit him with the, with some of the Carolina stacks, you can't fit him with Tampa. So, like, there may not be a lot of ownership on Arizona 1. So I do like them a lot here tonight. I don't think it's necessary to put Chychrun on. I do have him in some lineups, but the Kings don't take a ton of penalties, so like you don't have to drive that power play correlation. Like you don't need to throw in Christian Dvorak or whatever to get different either. So that's kind of where I am. And same thing on the LA side. The LA side is going to see the depth for Arizona, and the depth for Arizona is very good. Like you said, both top lines had great nights on Thursday. Or at least driving the play, they had great nights. So I suspect it'll be kind of the same thing here tonight. Jonathan Quick, I assume he's going to get the start again. He's at $7,000. Cal Peterson, $6,800. If gun to your head, would you rather play 8,300 Kemper or 6,800 Peterson?
Oh, 6,800. I'd play a 6,800 empty net over like an $8,300 goalie in GPPs. Like, if it was the old scoring, yeah, maybe I'd have Kemper. But with these arbitrary bonuses, with these save bonuses, like you just want to get these road goalies who get the volume, like, or it could be any goalie that gets the volume. And the Kings aren't a huge volume team, so it worries me. Like these goalies, like 8,000, 8,500, if they don't get a shutout, they're probably not going to be in the optimal lineup. So if I have a lineup that doesn't have Yotes, I will definitely consider Cal Peterson.
You heard it there from the man himself. All right, let's get to the next one, what I think might be one of the prime games of the entire slate. The Toronto Maple Leafs 3.2 implied goal total. Heading into Montreal, the Canadiens have a 3.3 implied goal total. The Canadiens have been off for 8 days or 9 days now. They've had a little break while the other 6 Canadian teams just kind of play each other. Toronto has had a busy week. It feels like they've been playing Ottawa for like 2 weeks now. So it might be a little bit of a change for them as well. A few lineup notes. Look, Jason Spezza took some power play one time with Toronto in their last game. Thomas Tatar is sticking down on the third line for Montreal on the Kotkaniemi line, while Tyler Toffoli stays on the top line with Phil Deneau and Brendan Gallagher. All right. There is a lot to like in this game. What do you like specifically?
Okay. First of all, on Thursday, I said that Justin Falk and Marty Jones are in the top 3 for my most frustrating DFS players. The third one is in this game, and it's Joe Thornton. This guy, when you fade him, because you should fade him, because he's 138 years old, and he was on a back-to-back at 3,800 at 200 years old, and he had a multi-point game. He scored a goal. It was just ridiculous. He tilts me to no end because whenever you leave him off, he does big things. He doesn't shoot the puck enough. Now he's 4,400. I'm going to tell you to fade him again. But okay, I'm going to take a breath. Okay, now Tyler Toffoli is on the top line instead of Tatar. Like I'm always saying, like I love Montreal 1 because of their 5-on-5 play. They don't get a ton of minutes on the power play. Now they're way more expensive because Tyler Toffoli is 7,400 and Tatar is 4,000. 7,400 Tyler Toffoli. I never thought I'd live the day because coaches love to just leave him in the bottom 6. Now they have a very small sample size. It was 2 games, and it's quite possibly they were matched up against Toronto 1, Edmonton 1, but they haven't played since like 2016, so I don't remember. But they have been very high event both ways in that game. So I'm not sure I want to play a line 5-on-5 going against the Matthews line, especially with $7,400 Tyler Toffoli. So on the Canadian side, I think, and I won't be alone here, Montreal 2 is the line I want to stack. I wish Anderson was on the top power play. I'll be saying that all season until he is or isn't. But Montreal 2 is the spot for me, Montreal. And then I would imagine like people are just going to jam in Matthews because of what it is. He was 9,000 the other night. He was like 45%. He's going to score. Like, he's going to score. It's just going to happen. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of, is Joe Thornton going to do anything with him? Is 8,100 Mitchell Marner going to do stuff? Like, there's like a ton of people are going to one off Matthews. It's just how it goes. So like, as much as it pains me, like, I think if you're going to play Matthews, you at least have to play Marner with him in GPPs. If you want to put in Thornton for the FOMO of like him getting a multi-point game, that's fine. He's on power play 1, and their numbers are ridiculous. Like, their numbers are crazy. I don't get it because he's a dinosaur. But like, I think the way to get unique by playing Matthews is full stacking that line. It's going to be lower owned comparative to just one-offing Matthews. So for me, Montreal 2 is the play for Montreal. Obviously, Toronto 1 is Toronto 1. I think full stacking is the way to get a bit contrarian there. If you want to go back to Toronto 2 for the power play 2 or 1B correlation, whatever you want to call it, but like, I don't really like going up against the Suzuki line. They've been running people over the season, so I think it's really just Montreal 2 or Toronto 1 for me.
Yeah, okay. I'm good with Montreal too. Their numbers this year are just absolutely insane. 1.5 expected goals against per 60, 67% expected goal share. Like, they're just dominating the opponent. So yeah, don't mind the Montreal 2. The Montreal 3 is where my focus is in this game, believe it or not. Kotkaniemi, Tatar, Joel Armia. It's just because they're super cheap and I can fit them in with my Tampa and my Edmonton stacks. We say often, the players we pick are just a function of the other players that we pick. It's not that I don't like Montreal 2 or that I don't like Toronto 1. It's just the way that my lineups are being built tonight. So, Kotkaniemi and Kotkaniemi and Armia this year, like just Kotkaniemi, Montreal 3 has like their expected goal share over 60% this year. Even in their games against Toronto, we're around 55%. Because like Montreal's third and fourth lines typically play the third and fourth lines from the opposing team. And I think, especially if Alex Kerfoot stays in the top 6 for Toronto, I think you can get the depth can be had here. So I like a Kotkaniemi, Tatar 2-man, Kotkaniemi, Armia 2-man. Kotkaniemi, Tatar especially because I think they're both on the second power play unit together. And Montreal, does tend to split their power plays a little bit. So I like that. Freddie Anderson, I don't mind in net. He's under 8K. He should see some volume, even though Toronto's a better defensive team. Like Montreal does fire the puck, so I don't mind Freddie Anderson. On the blue line, I do have some Weber, those Kotkaniemi, Tatar stacks. I don't have much Toronto, so I don't have much for the Leafs. Do you like any of the defensemen out of this game?
Not really. I mean, like Morgan Riley, 6,500 is a no thanks. Jeff Petrie, 6,700 is no thanks. I'd rather play Brett Burns in the middle for 6,600. If you're, going Montreal 3, I think you can use Alexander Romanov, 3,700. I think there was ice time concerns with him before the break, but if they've gotten 8-9 games or 8-9 days off, I think he can go back there. He's cheap enough now. He's under 4,000. It's not like he was up around 5,000 before their mini break there. And if you're not using Montreal, I don't mind, Freddie in GPPs. I don't mind Carey Price either in GPPs. I think both these goalies are similarly priced. They're the mid-range price. I think you can attack there for goalies, especially if you're correlating.
Yeah. And just one final note, Montreal still they're still one of the most penalized teams in the NHL, giving up 4 power plays per game. So like I said, if you want to get different, Jason Spezza, power play 1. Another way to get different with Matthews, throw on some Jason Spezza, baby.
If it's a Spezza night, look out, Alex Baker. That's his boy.
Well, good luck, Awesemo. All right, another early game that we got to take care of here. Tampa Bay. This is the makeup game. One of them, anyways. Tampa Bay with a 3.3 implied goal total going into Carolina with a 2.8 implied goal total. Alex Nedeljkovic starts for Carolina. Probably going to be Vasilevsky, it looks like, for Tampa Bay. Still no Anthony Cirelli for Tampa Bay, so we're assuming they're going to go back to the lineups that they've had, which is Tyler Johnson, Alex Killorn on the second line. So I think there are two specific lines I love out of this game. What do you like out of this game?
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay won. I'm going to start with Tampa. I think Tampa Bay one's going to go overlooked tonight just because they're probably going to be going up against the Aho line, and most people don't like going up against Aho, but he's not. Aho's not with Svechnikov. Like if Svechnikov was up on the top line, that would be like, because they're so good 5-on-5. It's like, yeah, I don't really want to play point against them, but like Point, Palat, Stamkos, fully correlated power play one, going up against whoever. I don't know how to pronounce that goalie's name. You guys can roast me. Pay $3.95 for the weekly. Come to chat, roast me for that one. Marketing 101. But yeah, getting back, I definitely like Tampa Bay one tonight. I did not see their ownership projection before I came on, but I would imagine they're going to go overlook tonight, and this is a spot that I want to exploit. I want to be over the field on Tampa Bay one. And then on the Carolina side, if the Stahl line is going to go against the Tyler Johnson line, that's probably where I want to be. Especially if like Trocheck's going to go up against the Gord, Coleman, Gaudreau line. That's not somewhere I want to be. So as much as I hate playing Jordan Stahl, like Stahl's with Svechnikov, they get the power play one correlation. And Fogel's there with him. He's 3,700 power play two. If you want to leave him off, that's fine. Go like Stahl, Svechnikov, Dougie. I think you could do that. But this game is all about Tampa one for me. If you can fit them in with 7,000 Victor Hedman, I think you can do it. We've mentioned a bunch of cheap thrower lines. I think that we like that you can go there with. So yeah, Tampa one for me. A little bit of Carolina two. As much as I want to use not just Niederreiter again tonight, it's a matchup that I don't like. So another cheap filler line, Tampa 3. I think you can go there as well. Don't really want a Tampa onslaught against the Hurricanes. They have been, decent defensively, despite a goalie who has very limited time in the NHL. But yeah, Tampa 1 for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on both ends in this game, or on both sides in this game, actually. Tampa 1 is one of my favorite stacks of the night. If you look at our top stacks tool, we have them as the number 2 stack to go off, but not even a top 10 stack by ownership. So they're one of our better leverage spots on the night. I love that Tampa top line. Carolina, they don't take a ton of penalties, but they're just inside the top 10. They're above average by taking penalties, so they could give up 4 power plays here to Tampa here tonight. It's a back-to-back, so and Tampa's had some rest, so maybe they can get something done here. And like you said, the matchup for that Jordan Stahl line, I don't like paying, what is it, $5,700 for Jordan Stahl shooting
disgusting.
Shooting 30% or something like that, but it's such a good matchup going into that Tampa second line that I think it's worth kind of choking it down, especially where if you stack him with Fogle, like you can drop the average cost of that line quite a bit. So with you on both ends there, Tampa 1 and Carolina 2. I do have some Vasilevsky as well. He should, I think he's going to see a fair amount of volume here tonight. He's under 8K, so don't mind Vasilevsky in net either. All right. Before we get to our final couple of games here, if you're not able to watch our awesome Awesemo shows here on YouTube, almost all of our Awesemo shows are available on the Awesemo Podcast Network. We've got a podcast available for almost every sport, and we're available on every major platform. So head on over to awesemo.com/podcast to check out our latest podcast. Please leave us a 5-star review for a chance to win a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And if you want to just get access to all our tools at Awesemo, you can buy our Awesemo Plus package at awesemo.com for $29.95, which is our weekly pass. This includes full access to our premium content and tools on awesemo.com, which there includes player projections, ownership projections, our premium Slack channel, which is very popular with our users, especially for NHL and NBA information, and a whole lot more. If you're only looking to play NHL DFS, then you can sign up for our Awesemo Plus NHL weekly package. It is only $11.95. You can stop guessing and start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. All right. Now that we had that out of the way, we've got a couple more games to get to. one that I don't think we're going to be super interested in, and one that I do think we're going to be very interested in. Let's get to that first one. Minnesota, 2.9 implied goal total. The Wild are going into Anaheim to face the Ducks. The Ducks have a 2.5 implied goal total. Now, as always, we don't know who's going to be starting for Anaheim. We assume it's going to be John Gibson. Kaapo Kähkönen is confirmed to start for Minnesota. All right, Josh, lay it on me. What do you like?
I mean, I don't know. Like, if you are having trouble sleeping, you can put on this game maybe and go to sleep. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how they're going to match up. So I pulled up our boy AD's line matching. And if you want to get that, it's the perfect complement to an Awesemo premium subscription. Like, it's just awesome. You can slip into my DMs. You can slip in Clippy's DMs. You can follow AD at Gnarly Rad Dude to get it. It's great. I'm trying to figure out the line matching on here. And the thing with like the Ducks is like you just don't know who's going to play. Like, Getzlaf and Terry are probably going to be together. Steele and Jakob Silfverberg are probably going to be together. But like, is Heinen going to play? Henrique got waived today. We don't know if he's going to play. Is Mac Jones going to be in the lineup? Like, their ice time like isn't great. So on the Ducks side, like if I had to go somewhere, I'd probably just have like one-off Silfverbergs in spots where I need about a $4,000 winger. I see Niehaus is pumping up his boy Rickard Rakell, but like until he's like up there with like if it was like Rakell, Steele, Silfverberg, like that's a line I could get behind, but like Rakell's just like buried in the bottom six, and which is bad because this Ducks team is just awful. So like the Ducks, like for me, like if I had to go somewhere, like, oh, you have to play two Ducks in your lineup tonight or like you're gonna die, like I'd probably just like two-man like Silfverberg and Shattenkirk, or like Silfverberg and I don't even know if Lindholm's in the lineup tonight, so it would probably just be like Silfverberg and Shattenkirk. If you want to have some Fowler, power play too, that's fine, but like I don't know, this team's pretty bad. And like on the Minnesota side, like I don't know if I really want anybody. Like these even strength lines are just a mess. Fiala with Eriksson, Ek, and Greenway. Like, I don't know why they're just not going back to Eriksson, Ek, Greenway, Foligno and just like load up the line. So again, like the Wild, like I want to like him, but I don't really have much interest. Like the second line, like Kaprizov, power play 1, and then like with Zook and Mojo, like power play 2, like it just doesn't really do much for me. Like this game as a whole is like a big fade for me. If Gibson's starting, I want 7,100 Gibson. I think that he's my favorite play in this game. Kaapo Kähkönen, I'd want to play, but like 8,200 is just too much. Like the Ducks just don't have enough shot volume for me. So Jakob Silfverberg one-off, Shattenkirk one-offs, some Dumba one-offs, maybe a Dumba Fiala here and there, but that's really about as much as I like in this game.
Okay, so I'm with you on Anaheim. I don't have any interest in the Ducks. 7,100 John Gibson, absolutely. The rest, I don't think. Like, I think I have some like one-off Max Comtois. That's about it. Like, I honestly don't have anything else from the Ducks. The Anaheim side. We're talking about Minnesota now. We're on the Minnesota side, boys. I have a lot of interest in Eriksson, Ek, Fiala, and Greenway. Eriksson, Ek, and Fiala were on the power play together in the last game. Greenway there, you prefer Parise or Kaprizov, but he's fine. And Anaheim typically uses their fourth line against the opposing top line, and like their fourth line isn't good. Like this isn't like the Dubé Lucic line from Calgary or the old Eriksson, Ek, Foligno, Hartman line here from Minnesota. Like, it's just not a good line. So Eriksson, Ek, and Fiala, like Eriksson, Ek, I'm pretty sure he's still leading the NHL in individual expected goals per 60 minutes this year. Like he's having a really good season, believe it or not. And Kevin Fiala, like he's a shot machine. So yeah, I'm in on Minnesota on their top line. Eriksson, Ek, Fiala, Greenway, mixing in some Ryan Suter for some power play. John Gibson, like that's honestly it for me out of this game. Is I'm stacking stacking the top line for Minnesota because they'll get Anaheim 4. I think it's a good matchup. I have a fair bit of John Gibson. I think he's my most popular goalie tonight. But that's it. And like, I guess there's a punt on the Minnesota side. Kalen Addison, even though Jonas Brodin is back in the lineup for Minnesota, Kalen Addison is probably still going to be running the second power play, or on the second power play unit at least. So I don't mind Kalen Addison if you need like a super cheap punt. He's actually a good puck moving defenseman. So yeah, that's where I am. Minnesota 1, I do like them. Nothing on the Anaheim side except for the goalie. All right, we got 5 minutes left. We got one game left, and it's a pretty important one. So let's get right to it. We've got the Calgary Flames with a 2.8 implied goal total going into Edmonton with a 3.2 implied goal total. These two teams played last night. Edmonton won 2-1 in what was a pretty tight checking game, actually. Sean Monahan didn't play. He was a scratch at warm-up. I think they said upper body injury. I forget, but I assume if he wasn't healthy for last night that he won't be healthy again tonight. They went to a top line of Backlund, Tkachuk, Mangiapane with Lindholm and Gaudreau playing on the second line. Pretty much the same game as last night, just in a different spot. So what do you like here, Josh?
Yeah, I'm going back to Edmonton 1 tonight. Especially, I mean, it's not really a surprise. Like, Nugent Hopkins is 7,200, and I think people are going to leave him off. So people are just going to, like, the same. My dogs are going absolutely ham right now. But, like, it's the same thing with like Edmonton is with Toronto. If you're gonna use McDavid, the way to get a bit unique is the full stack there. So Edmonton 1, yeah, for me. I'm gonna go back to a line on Calgary. It's probably the second line, especially if they see Draisaitl, Lindholm, Gaudreau, and Dubé. Like, if you want to leave Dubé off, it's fine. If you want to put Rasmus Anderson, I think he saw a good amount of power play time there. You can go Gaudreau, Lindholm, Rasmus Anderson. But that top line of the Flames, Backlund, Tkachuk, Mangiapane, going against McDavid line, like, I just don't want to go against McDavid. It's just not something I like to do just because their numbers have been really good this season. So Edmonton 1 for me, Calgary 2 for me. If you're going Edmonton, I think if you can fit in Barrie at 6,400, you do it. If not, you leave him off. There's not really another defenseman I want in this game. Like, if you want a one-off nurse, like 6,300, you can. It seems very overpriced for me. And then if you Giordano, again, 5,700. I don't know. It's a little expensive.
Yeah. I'm with you. I don't want anything to do with that Calgary top line. I don't want them going into that McDavid matchup. Is not a great matchup. Mikko Koskinen should be starting. He's ostensibly a better goalie than Mike Smith, though we don't really know. Edmonton doesn't take a lot of penalties either, like 7th or 8th fewest in the league. So Calgary may not get a ton of power play opportunities in this game. So that's another thing that's kind of taking me away from Calgary. I do have a little bit of interest in a Gaudreau Monahan two-man, or not Gaudreau Monahan, Gaudreau Lindholm, because, you know, we talked about yesterday on the show, Edmonton's second line, their defensive numbers aren't good at all. Assuming Gaudreau and Lindholm don't see much of that McDavid line, they could take advantage of that. So I do have some Gaudreau Lindholm two-mans. Just be aware that, you know, because it is a late game and because they did lose last night and because they do have some players injured, that you might have to make some late swaps. It's not necessarily a guarantee that Gaudreau and Lindholm will be playing together. Edmonton also, they keep splitting the power play time, and it's driving me up the wall. Puljujarvi didn't even get any power play minutes last night. It was all James Neal with a little bit of Alex Chiasson. So, you know, if you're looking to get a little bit different, if you want to mix in some low-price players, Neal probably higher on the priority list, but he is more expensive. So Alex Chiasson is another guy that you can throw in those power play stacks just to get a little bit different. I don't mind one-offing Darnell Nurse. I think he's a guy that, you know, if this ends up a 2-1 or 3-1 game, I think he's a guy that, you know, could be in on 2 of their goals or 3 of their goals or something like that, because he, you know, he does shoot. He plays a ton of minutes. He plays a lot with McDavid. like I said, this could be a 2-1 or 3-1 game where Nurse gets in on a couple goals. So I don't mind him as a one-off, but it's not somebody I'm targeting. It's like if he fits, I would play him type thing. So that's where I'm at here. Love the Edmonton power play with you there. Gojo, Lindholm, have a bit of them as well. Not going to take any goalies out of this game, I don't think. I wouldn't, just completely begrudge anybody for playing 7,400 Markstrom, but he looked pretty bad in his last game. And Edmonton's Edmonton. I don't think you really want your goalie on the road in Edmonton on an 8-game slate. So that's where we are for this slate. Josh, why don't you give the viewers out there one of your favorite stacks tonight?
I'm going to say Arizona 1, as long as they avoid Kopitar.
All right. I'm going to stay in that game, and I'm going to go – actually, no. I'm going to go Carolina 2. Jordan Staal, Svechnikov, Fogle. That's one of my favorite lines on the night. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We should be back on Monday, I believe, with a show. I think Jake and Terry will be with you. For Josh Harris and for Tyler Zander, our producers, Michael Clifford, saying good luck tonight, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Good luck.